On a scale of 1 to Elmo, how intelligent is Troy? What led up to Zeruiah's arrest? Were we right? And what happens next? Well, to answer this and many more questions, allow me to take us back to the beginning. Hello and welcome to Lawd Lukan. It's time to change your name to Dale and hope for the best as we take another look at Zeruiah and Troy's situation. On today's show, it's Troy that's doing the digging instead of me.
Let me put it this way. I'm taking a wrath for some because I'm protecting somebody else.
We check out the probable cause for Zeruiah's eruption.
Troy messed with her now. Zeruiah know about it too.
Are Troy and Zeruiah violating their no-contact order? And Mama Karen wades in with the old gloves on.
Some fucking name. Tell me some Dale Jones. Who else is she gonna be jumping on in the bed?
All this and more right here on the Lawd Lukan channel.
Now everything that I post, somebody got some dumb to say, and it's like, yo, y'all can keep going on, bro. I'm very unbothered by this.
Good morrow, bien le bonjour, and ohisashibura to you. Big loves to those who've subscribed, you beautiful people, and a freshly shaved white truffle tagliatelle to the lords and ladies of the Lukan Manor. You know, mon petit pois, they say you start the year as you mean to go on. And if that's the case, we're in for a ride and a half, courtesy of the Zeruiah and Troy. So, let's get a quick recap of where we are for those in the back of the class who weren't paying attention. Well, in the last video, we took a quick look at Zeruiah's arrest and speculated on the knock-on effects of a man on PRS being with a felon. Since then, Troy and Zeruiah have attempted a bit of damage control, and, like their merch, no one bought it. Those arrest papers have made it out, and even the New York Post has picked up the story. Troy appeared on his life, making himself look more guilty than a puppy sitting next to a pile of poop. Zeruiah has tried to play the victim, and everyone's favourite Karen had an elegant word or two to say about it. So we're going to take a look at all that today. Check out some footage from just before the incident, which gives us a pretty good idea of why it happened. And if you can guess how many brain cells Loverboy's got left, you can have them both. So, put your feet up, put down the coffee, because as Albert Einstein once said, you can't make this shit up. So, let's start with the crime report, shall we? Now, you might notice that the top of the page has got this little box here which is ticked, which says Marcy's Law. And in case you didn't know, the journey of Marcy's Law began with the tragic murder of Marcy and Nicholas by her ex-boyfriend, which occurred in November 30th, 1983. This event led to the creation of Marcy's Law, a movement aimed at ensuring that crime victims are treated with respect and dignity throughout the legal process. The law was inspired by Marcy's family's encounter with her ex-boyfriend at a grocery store, highlighting the lack of notification and protection for victims' families within the criminal justice system. The law has since been adopted in over 30 states, ensuring that crime victims and their families are informed, protected, and treated with dignity throughout the legal proceedings. So, on we go. On December 27th, 2025, at approximately 0559 hours, could have just made it 6 o'clock really, couldn't they? But anyway, I was dispatched at 215 North Ocean Breeze in reference to a domestic disturbance. Upon my arrival, at 1-bedroom, 1-bath guest house and a sparkling pool. It's a gem here in Lake Worth Beach. Well, it was until these two got their hands on it. Now, this is the scene for this year's big story, which, considering I'm writing this on January the 2nd, is pretty good going. Well, I wonder what they've got planned for the rest of the year. So, just to add some context, according to the New York Post, they had gone to Florida to see some family and record some new stuff for the Life After Lockup people. I wonder if they'll include this in the episode when it airs. But what a filler couple they would have been up to that point. Yeah, they went to Florida to pretend to be famous and vaguely likeable and had a holiday. Yeah, well that sucks. What a boring storyline. But don't worry, plot fans. Zeruiah went and spiced it all up by using Troy's head as a wireless charger. Oh, sorry, no, she used a guy called Dale's head as a wireless charger. Probably just one of those really slow ones where you plug it in and it tells you it'll be like 7 hours before it's full. And this is where it gets very silly. No, it took like a sentence. In fact, it took 5 words before anyone reading it raised an eyebrow and said,
"Oh, you are so dumb. You are really dumb."
The suspects, Zeruiah M. Jones, husband Dale Jones, Yes, indeedy. Troy Einstein Marie Curie Jones decided it was a super genius move to try and lie about his identity. And yes, I know, it is all alleged at this point, but he totally sells himself out in a clip that I'll show you in a second. But just picture the scene. Dan, what's your name, sir? It's, Dale, Dale. Dad, what's your surname, sir? It's, Jones. Dale Jones? Ah, damn it. Imagine that. Of all the names in the world, he could have given one of the 1.5 million names that there are, but no, he gave his own ones. Good job. That's like if they arrested O.J. Simpson and they asked him what his name was, and he said, I'm J.O. Simpson, so, you can't arrest me. But what's Troy's super genius explanation for all this name-based confusion? Well, let's go over to Twatlock. He's no lawyer, he's a Troyer extraordinaire.
And by law, that is not my name, y'all. I'm sorry. That is not my name. I would have never been able to bail this woman out of jail.
Ah, well, case closed then. Those lawyers have got their work cut out today, don't they? So, his defence, if you can call it that, is that his name isn't Dale J. Jones, as he wrote on the police form. Does he really think that the prosecution are as mentally challenged as he is? Oh, damn, her husband's name is Troy Dale Jones, not Dale Jones. Damn. Okay, right, well, thanks for your time. Case dismissed. No, that's not how that works. Sure, he couldn't have bailed her out if he's listed as a victim, but I don't think that was his motive. I doubt that he thought ahead far enough to consider bail at all at that point. But saying, it's not my name or I would have been able to get her out on bail, is just like admitting the offence and giving an explanation of why he did it all at once. And his problem could be that no judge in this universe wouldn't be able to see past his dastardly deception.
It's not my handwriting. Now we could talk about handwriting. Handwriting is very, very, very delicate.
Sure, yeah, but the handwriting doesn't actually mean the thing. For starters, it gets printed, so the handwriting is only on the original report taken at the scene. But in terms of whether or not it'd get in trouble, Florida's false name statute doesn't require handwriting, a form, a signature, or a written statement. It's the stuff that comes out of your mouth that's the problem. And he's got kind of a fundamental misunderstanding of how forms work.
I'm a right-handed person. That looked like it was probably left-handed, but I write with a right hand though, or a person that just have a sloppy handwriting.
that is quite possibly the stupidest thing ever. Not the stupidest thing he says in this video, of course, that the bar for that is set so low that he sort of buried it somewhere near China. So he's pretty much told us that he wrote it with his left hand, or how would he know that it's written with the left hand? Is Professor Troy an expert in handwriting all of a sudden? This is the kind of defence that it was written by somebody who panicked, lied, tried to invent a reason why the lie wasn't a lie, forgot how police paperwork works, then doubles down on the wrong detail. It's got all the forensic equivalent of, I didn't eat the cake, the crumbs on my shirt weren't in the style of my mess making. Anyway, Zeruiah M. Jones, husband Dale Jones, advised he was sleeping when he was woken by being hit in the face with a cell phone by Zeruiah. Dale advised Zeruiah was going through his phone while he was sleeping and found something she did not like, resulting in Zeruiah hitting him in the face with the phone and yelling, "What is this?" Now we can hazard a guess at what this might be with these next two clips. Let me take you back a week or two to when he's on live and he's talking about how much clout he has. Because, in case you didn't know, Troy is a one-man powerhouse of social media amazingness. Now, for context, he's at home with Zeruiah and their child, telling us how super-duper he is. Because he drops Zeruiah off at work, then looks after Sarja before he goes to work himself. All the time chogging on a big old bifter. Yeah, dad of the year right there, stinking out the house, giving his oh-so-important child some passive smoke inhalation, and admitting he's about to do all the driving and childcare, whilst hires a kite that's been attached to the back of a space rocket. Good job. But we're ignoring that for some reason. Apparently it's totally fine for him, and any other CPS people that may have been watching this. Oh, and that top. Let's just admire that pink vest and bonnet combo he's rocking for a moment, shall we? Anyway, he first outlines his social media usage.
I don't get on here and just, every time me and my wife have an argument or a disagreement with her, I get on the internet and I talk about it. Here, babe.
So, he's admitting that they do argue. He's telling us that there are regular occasions where they argue. And the phrase every time we argue does suggest that any disagreement or altercation that happens does so with some frequency. Yeah, that'd be good if they want to use the defense that it was all just a one-off and that generally everything's fine. Because if their lawyers want to go through discovery, if Zeruriah decides to plead innocent, all this kind of stuff will come up for sure. Unless we see a sudden mass deletion of content, which I think has probably already gone through that rather spacious head of his. He then tells us how good he's doing on Facebook.
Facebook, shout it out. Y'all know what's going on. 43,000. I'm following 950 people. And I don't even know how the fuck. I just think sometimes you accept friend requests, you just automatically start following people.
Yes, that old chestnut of an excuse. Oh yeah, I've got no idea how following people work. No, I have no idea about the magical things that happens when you click follow. It's just like some kind of crazy techno-magical thing. Sure you don't. But why would he launch into a denial about it? Does he have something to hide? Well, let's look at those 900 people that he says he follows. There's something very consistent, shall we say, about all these people. Got to say, he's accidentally following a lot of different ladies. A lot of ladies who have a very similar kind of profile picture. There are some guys in it, like all these guys with muscles. Gay boy. And I'm not saying he is that, of course, this person is. Yeah, this one's a kind of a fun comment too. Explains why he's ditched the penis size thing very, very quickly at the beginning of the seasons. But, that's a lot of thirsty women that he seems to be mysteriously following, including this young lady with the blue hair. Hey, Karen, break him off some.
See this girl right here? Troy messed with her now. Zeruiah know about it too.
Ooh, so Zeruriah knew about her all along. Interesting. But what about that Snapchat account of his?
And then I have a Snapchat that's probably very low. I don't know what the following is on Snapchat. But I get a lot of fucking messages and dumb shit on fucking Snapchat. Alright?
Now, I don't know about you, but a grown-ass man has no need to be on a teenager's apps where your messages disappear. This is a massive red flag for me. Nothing good comes out of Snapchat. If I met a delightful lady who seemed brilliant in every way, and then I find out she's got Snapchat, well, goodbye, thanks for coming. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord splits you, as Professor Blaine once said. If there's one thing that tells me everything I need to know about a person, is that they have a Snapchat account. And I bet that silly stuff that he mentions is probably something he doesn't want Zeruriah to see. Do you know what I'd like to see? I'd like to see you like and hype my little video, and why not throw a little subscribe in there while you're at it? That would be most excellent of you. So, let's head back to the police report, shall we? While on scene, law enforcement were asking fact-finding questions with Zeruriah's family. Dale was heard spontaneously uttering that Zeruriah had hit him in the face with his phone, and had hit him multiple times during their verbal altercation stroke argument. That there is what they call probable cause for arrest. That because there were children present, that sets the threshold even lower. That totally undermines their social media posts, which claim there was no violence between them. Like this one, for example. Hello everyone, I'm issuing this statement to address the false narratives circulating about me. I want to be very clear, I did not attack my husband. Well, I think the report says differently there, my aggressive little nugget. Any claims suggesting otherwise are untrue. I am innocent, and I will prove that in court. Because this is an active and pending legal matter, I will not be commenting further on the details. I take situations like this extremely seriously and trust the legal process will bring the truth forward. Well, that bit was the most true so far. Yes, the truth did in fact come forward. And the whole I'm not commenting straight after saying she was innocent and didn't attack her husband is just another reason why we don't believe a word these people say. My heart is with my children. One of the things I was most proud of before appearing on the television. Really? That's a crowning moment, was it? Yeah, good job. Was the privacy I maintained for my family. Well done. So you managed to stay completely unknown before you were on TV. That's an achievement. Anyway, and it pains me deeply that my children are now seeing their mother discussed publicly in the media and on social platforms. So, she was cool when it was just underwear shots and talking about polyamorous relationships, Troy smoking his way through a lifetime's worth of greenery, and that was all fine. But, reading about their mother being the person they probably already knew she was, oh, no, that is just unacceptable. You must be drinking the Kool-Aid, And do the kids actually read this stuff anyway? One of her kids is under 1, and judging by the gene pool that it got created in, I doubt that reading is on the cards for a while yet. And the other child has autism and is too young to have Facebook. So is he suggesting that he's out there checking up on her activities? Or is the whole think of the children defence just a way of claiming victimhood? And if you don't want them reading about the fact you assaulted your husband, then the answer to that is simple. Don't assault your husband. At this time, I am stepping away from my professional role. I work with children, and out of respect for them, their families, and my own family, I believe it is the responsible thing to do while I focus on resolving this matter and protecting my loved ones. Translation: I probably got totally suspended because the place I work at doesn't want to be associated with a domestically abusive crazy person who attacks people while they're in bed with a child. I know who I am. I know what I have and have not done. I will not allow public speculation or online narratives to define my character, my past, or my future. My focus is on my innocence, my healing, and my family. Sure, the online narratives don't define who you are. The fake online narratives, lies, and gaslights that you put out, those do define your character. In fact, a post on her Instagram, which I didn't get to screenshot, said, "This interest in me just confirms the fact that I am who I think I am." Really? She thinks that this amount of eyes that the case is getting is a sign of how famous or important she is. What the actual? Only this level of narcissism is capable of beating a man, claiming she didn't, and then when the whole story gets reported, claims it's a sign of how much clout she has. Anyway, back to the report. Zeruriah walked away from Dale, entered the main residence of the Airbnb from the backyard mother-in-law suite, went to the main residence's kitchen and retrieved a knife, preparing to walk back to Dale. Multiple family members witnessed this and rushed Zeruriah by grabbing her arms to intervene and disarm Zeruriah. Now, this is where the whole thing escalates. Even though she never actually reached him with it, the moment she retrieved a weapon, moved towards the area where he was, and had to be disarmed and tackled, it immediately became aggravated domestic violence in the eyes of the law. Intent doesn't have to be proved on the spot. The act of arming yourself during a domestic dispute is enough to justify arrest, regardless of what she intends to do with it. Let's say, for example, she claims that she was never going to use it on him. Maybe she intended to damage the phone with it. Well, Florida Statute 741.28 and 741.29 tells us that DV statutes focus on actions, not intentions. The prosecution does not need to prove that she intended to unalive him, that she intended to seriously injure, or that she intended to stab him. They only need to show that she armed herself during a domestic conflict in the way that created reasonable fear or escalation, and that is it. Intent becomes relevant only if they're trying to charge her with attempted murder, which they are not. We know that on the report it says, without the intent to kill. But what does that actually mean? Well, this phrase is incredibly important. When a police report or charge says, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon without intent to kill, it doesn't mean we don't think she was going to use it. It means she used or threatened a weapon, but we are not alleging that she intended to kill the victim. This is a lesser form of aggravated assault. It still means she armed herself, she escalated the situation, she created fear or danger, and the weapon was part of the conflict, but the state is not accusing her of attempted homicide. It's a classification, not a belief about her motives. The law cares about the risk, not about her explanation. Prosecutor might say, if she only intended to stab the phone, why did she walk towards the person she was arguing with holding a knife? And the jury would think the same. Florida courts look at a few things, including the objective behaviour, i.e. she hit him, she armed herself, she moved towards him, and she had to be disarmed. They care about the context, which was a domestic abuse with children present prior to physical violence moments earlier, and also the risk created. A knife and heated argument is inherently dangerous. Intent can change in a split second, and the state's job is to prevent escalation. So if she was to say something like, I was only going to stab the phone, the law would respond with, you introduced a deadly weapon into a domestic conflict, that is the crime. And here's where Troy tries to appear to be a man, because he, presumably, doesn't want to lose his gangster image by admitting that a lady DV'd him.
I just did 7 years in prison. You think I'm about to let a woman beat on me? Get the fuck out of here. Y'all stupid as hell. And I'm just being real. We on some gangster shit. I'm not letting a woman beat me up. Look at me. Look at my figure.
Before I go on, I do love how sarcasm, the people behind the clip that I'm using today, shout out to the wonderfully brilliant Asa and her team, included those delightful trousers of his, after his "we're on some gangster shit" statement.
Y'all really think she could do something with me? No, I don't give a f***. I disarm a motherfucker.
Yeah, good job, sarcasm. The fact that she's beating on him doesn't have anything to do with how manly he thinks he might be. If anything, the fact that he didn't retaliate and break open his own can of whoop-de-doo-dah is more of a reflection on him than the fact that he was DV'd. He thinks he'd be less of a man for being beaten, but I think it makes him more of a man for not just doing the same thing back. He clearly thinks DV in this direction makes him weak. No, my donut-wearing trousered amigo. It shows that your respect is stronger than those arms of yours.
You think she doing something with me, you stupid?
I grew up the idea you never respond to violence with violence, especially in a relationship. That mindset can trap men in situations where they feel they can't defend themselves or even speak up. If she got really close with the weapon, then okay, well that's a different story. If someone genuinely poses a danger to your life, then that's a different situation entirely. Okay, well here's a little something from my life story. I was with a person who was constantly violent towards me. One night she downed a load of absinthe and then just attacked me like a person possessed. She scratched and hit me and then had bitten onto my face, and I was worried that she'd tear a chunk of my lip and cheek off. So I took her to the floor, applied my body weight and tried to exhaust her. I used the same pressure point technique you'd use to stop a dog from biting, because I genuinely thought she was going to tear my face. Then she let go. The next day she's mad at me because I left a very small bruise, whereas I looked like I'd gone 10 rounds with a grizzly bear. Another time I was dating a woman and my phone rang. It was my kids calling me on their mother's phone to say goodnight. They did that every night at 8 p.m. But because a woman's phone number came up, she started to repeatedly beat my chest, leaving a crazy amount of bruising. Another time I was with a woman in a hotel room and she was mad because the staff had served their friends after hours and refused to serve her. And as she felt that I hadn't supported her and not got all rowdy with the staff, back at the room, she started punching me in the face. What did I do? I calmly said, could you stop punching me in the face now, please? Now, I'm not saying that how I acted was the right thing to do. Sure, I made excuses for them in my head. I put it down to a bad day and contributed to the idea that that person can do these things and get away with it. It's more that if a guy who may or may not be stronger than her was to raise his hand and in any way leave a mark on that woman, then us guys know that we'll be the ones wearing the cuffs. I have to say that DV is abhorrent, and no matter which way it goes, I'm sure the stats would tell us that it's largely the men, the majority of the time, that commit these offences. And often arresting the guy is the right thing to do. But in the chaos of a domestic call, officers can only go by what they see at the moment, and sometimes that means the wrong person gets cuffed. I stand beside any person who experiences these things, but us men need to get over the idea of it being emasculating. We need to put our pride to one side and say, no, this is not acceptable in any universe. Anyway, Dale was looked over for any injuries, but no injuries were observed. Dale did not get medically assessed by the Palm Beach County Fire Rescue when they were on the scene. Zeruiah had a bruise on her left thigh. The family of Zeruiah advised that the bruise was the result of bumping into furniture throughout their stay in the Airbnb, and that Zeruiah posted a video of herself on social media, advising that she was going to sue the Airbnb for the furniture causing her the bruise to her leg. Zeruiah also refused to allow on-scene law enforcement to take photographs of the bruise. I can totally believe that. Zeruiah getting all Karen about it, and not like fun Karen.
She won't say it to my face how I beat the motherfucking dog bumps off her face.
But what did she actually manage to crash into? The kitchen counter? I can imagine the complaint. Dear sir, I'm writing to complain about your kitchen. I can't believe it just jumped out on me and injured my leg. How irresponsible of you to have put it there, you imbecile. Yours sincerely, Zeruiah. P.S. I totally wasn't arrested at your place. It was a lie. Even all those police reports and newspaper articles, yeah, they're all lying too. I'm a totally responsible and credible person. So, can I have a refund, please? Because WeTV aren't picking up the bill. Cheers. Based on the information I obtained, I believe there is probable cause for the arrest of Zeruiah in pursuant to Florida State Statute for violation of 784.0211A. Catchy title. Aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, and FSS 784.031A1. Simple battery. Due to Zeruiah and Dale being married, plus having 2 children in common, this case is domestic violence. Zeruiah was placed under arrest, placed in handcuffs, double locked, and checked for proper fit. Now all that seems like it's pretty much sewn up, doesn't it? We've got the victim being heard confirming that there was an assault, a report of the escalation. What is there to argue about in court? Well, for these 2 poor deluded fools, there's still plenty to argue and gaslight about. And for Troy, it's about the fact that his real name isn't on the report.
Anybody in this comments can say, anytime they have talked to the police, they said, let me see your ID. If you did not have ID, they took you down to the precinct.
Now, this is what us experts in this field call a steaming pile of horse manure. Florida is not a strict show me your papers kind of state. The law says you do not have to carry ID in non-traffic situations. If the police have reasonable suspicion that a crime has occurred, you must identify yourself verbally, and you do not have to show physical ID. Simply being a victim does not trigger any requirement to produce ID. So if Troy was the victim in the domestic call, which let's face it, he pretty much was really. I mean, who the hell are we kidding? Officers would ask him his name, ask his date of birth, and write down whatever he said. They do not drag victims to the station for fingerprinting. That only happens if someone is detained or arrested and refuses to identify themselves. Florida only requires ID when someone is detained with reasonable suspicion of a crime. And even if he did produce his ID, it's common for people to go by their middle names. So the label Dale Jones' husband is more than enough to identify him. But for the purposes of the next clip, let's imagine we totally believe Public Defender Jones and his version of the law.
Once they ran your fingerprints for the precinct, if your name did not come back to who you was, it is now a crime. That is called what?
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 Oh, it's a question. Cool, I like quizzes. Well, it's called a load of shit, generally, because you were totally wrong. But the act of lying about your identity is actually called providing false name to law enforcement.
That is called what?
Alright, okay. Don't get your bonnet in a twist. Yes, it was called obstruction of justice.
What?
False reporting to law enforcement?
False impersonation. False impersonation.
No, no, it's not. False impersonation is what they refer to as not a thing. The impersonation bit would be right if he was pretending to be a public official, a police officer or a licensed professional. So if he said, I'm Sergeant Dr. Troy of the FBI, they'd tase him and cuff him for being stupid in a public place. But Troy didn't pretend to be an actual person. Well, he kind of did, but the actual person was himself, just by dropping his first name. Good job. But I don't think you'd get in trouble for pretending to be yourself. He didn't even blurt out a fake name. He sort of blurted out his own name. How can you manage to get that wrong? But I couldn't say that I could do much better of thinking a name off the top of my head. I'd say something like, I don't know, Barry McBarrington or Dave or something. There's no way I could come up with something that wasn't silly on the spot. Plus, I'd probably forget what name I'd given after a few minutes. Excuse me, sir, didn't you just say your name was Brian? Yes. My full name is Brian Dave Barry Gary Wayne Keith Barrington Smith. It's like a family thing. Did you hear about those guys who have the misfortune of being called James Bond, and a bunch of them got arrested because the officer thought they were just taking the piss? Anyway, after Chief Science Officer Troy had his little moment there, where he thought that false impersonation was a thing, he gets all carried away about being brilliant and accidentally says this.
I never gave them my f***ing name. You know why? Because they would have took my ID. To see my name was not Dale Jones J. And I'm not going to tell y'all what that J stands for because it's not my name.
I mean, where do you even start with this little lot? I didn't give them my ID, even though he probably wasn't asked for ID, because then they would have seen that wasn't his name. so, it's just kind of admitted that he gave him a fake name. Good job. Can you imagine them watching this back in court? Then he turns to his discount legal advice and said, I did good, right? No, you didn't. You do what us in the legal profession call a fucking awful job. And then he has the audacity to call us stupid.
I'm not going to do that. Y'all stupid as f***. I would never do that.
Yeah, we're the problem. Yeah, sure. We're not the ones wearing our favourite Homer Simpson trousers and a bonnet while sweeping the same bit of floor for the last 10 minutes. But I think those brain cells of him might have just realised that he might have said a bit too much. which would be the first thing he said that's correct. So go Troy. So his next strategy is to pretend like he's been protecting the real Dale Jones. Yeah, now that's thinking, possibly. I'm going to call it thinking because it originated from the head area of his body. But thinking usually suggests the presence of thought, which is a bit sort of ambitious.
I'm not gonna throw somebody under the bus, bro. I never did shit like that. No, y'all, it didn't have nothing to do with me.
Okay, so let's recap all of this so far. He wasn't there, but he was there. But it wasn't his name, but it was a bit of his name, and he's protecting someone who happens to share the majority of his name. But he also didn't show his ID, so they wouldn't know he gave a false name. If I was the prosecution, I'd just play this and put my feet up for the rest of the trial. I'm sure some trials are mostly pretty boring, but this one's going to be one for the books. Good old Troy. What he lacks in mental acuity, he makes up with comedy value. Because if he hadn't already told us that he lied, he decides to make it super clear.
I never showed them my ID or none of that shit. You know why? Because I would be in jail just as well. If I would have showed them people my ID and gave them my name, I would be in jail as well. And I'm going to leave it at that.
I mean, what? Son, are you stupid?
Now everything that I post, somebody got some dumb shit to say, and it's like, yo, y'all can keep going on, bro. I'm very unbothered by this.
Fantastic! Sounds like permission to me. I had more intelligent things in my hand last time I scratched my arse. You're like a glow stick. I want to shake you till the light comes on. You're so stupid when they asked for order in court, you asked for fries and a Coke. You're so dumb that you took an IQ test and it came back negative. You're so stupid that when they said drinks are on the house, you went to get a ladder. Yeah, that's all the ones I can remember right now. If I remember any more, I'll be sure to let you know.
Respectfully, I'm not that type. Yo, bro.
Was he fist bumping us there? That was really odd, wasn't it? He got all mad, then kind of got all scared at himself, and then fist bumped us. Are you okay? Did that phone bust something a little bit looser than it already was? But he composes himself, and again tries to tell us why he thinks the case will be dismissed.
All charges had to be dropped and dismissed. You know why? Because by law, legally, that is not my name.
Troy just keeps on saying that the charge must be dropped because he gave the wrong name. But DV cases in Florida aren't called Troy versus Zeruriah, they're State of Florida versus Zeruriah. The state decides whether to prosecute, not the victim, not the suspect, and definitely not the guy who panicked and called himself Dale. So his argument is a bit like saying, you can't prosecute the bank robbery because I told you my name is Batman. Yeah, it doesn't really work like that.
Let me put it this way. I'm taking a wrath for some because I'm protecting somebody else.
If Troy walked into court and said, I lied to the police to protect someone else, he has just admitted to knowingly giving a false name, intentionally obstructing an investigation, interfering with the DV inquiry, and doing so on purpose. It doesn't help him, it incriminates him. Troy says he lied to protect someone else, which is adorable because in court that's not a defense, that's called a confession. It's like saying, Your Honor, I didn't steal the car, I just drove it away to protect the real thief. And if the prosecution does get hold of this video, they'll play it like a greatest hits album of self-incrimination. He contradicts himself, admits that he'd lied, admits he hid his identity, and then claims he wasn't even there. If anything, the only person he's protecting is the state attorney, because he's making their job unbelievably easy. And oddly enough, it's Mama Karen who has some words of wisdom. Words. She's got some words.
Some fucking name. Tell me some Dale Jones. Who else is she gonna be jumping on in the bed?
Exactly. So let's just imagine Troy's "it wasn't me" story was as convincing as he thinks it is. So let's rewind and put that together. Some guy called Dale was in the granny annex with Zeruriah when she woke up and started hitting him in the face with a phone. And Troy just stayed in bed and never spoke to the police, but also took the blame for Dale, who in the eyes of the law didn't actually do anything wrong. So what was he actually taking the rap for? Taking the rap for being a victim of a crime? But if Troy wasn't Dale, Zeruriah's husband, then who was the kid he was in bed with? According to the report, the kids were ones that Zeruriah had in common with Dale. So, what was Troy doing in bed with a little girl?
Do not mess with me. Because I know a whole lot more. You better stop. Because you don't even supposed to be in the house with Troy.
So, what is she alluding to there? That she knows that Troy and Zeruriah, even though they have a no contact order, are still seeing each other? And how might we know that? Well, for those answers, let's take a look at Zeruriah's Instagram posts. So we have this one from a few hours ago, showing her eating from a container which has Don Corleone, aka Troy's, stickers on. How'd they get there? He couldn't pass them directly, and he certainly couldn't have used a third party to do so. And if you listen closely at the end of the clip, I wonder who he is. Well, if she's in the background talking on the phone, then who the hell's stirring up the wings? You know, if you can call those wings of Troy had something in common. People wish there was a bit more meat on the bone. She also posted this image, suggesting she's in Atlanta, but I call BS on that one. She also posted this not at all incriminating quote from Mr. Wayne.
I said I didn't do nothing wrong, but now I'm doing it right. That's all we saying, dog.
She also then takes a pop at the people who are covering the story, like she's trying to reprimand them for talking about topical things, because apparently it's not her fault for doing stuff which is newsworthy, it's their fault for talking about it.
If you're a blogger or like you do tea pages and you report, you know, what you think you know or whatever the case may be.
Does this include me? No, I'm not really a tea page, I don't suppose. I'm not really sure what I am, frankly. And blogging is something that died with MySpace, but I kind of think I'm included in this. Okay, well, let's see what she's got to say about people like me, shall we?
And people be like, oh yeah, we already knew, or I was right, or this, that, and the third. How do you feel afterwards? Like, okay, you feel like you was right, or you came up with your own conclusions, or, oh, I got you, I do it. Then what? Honestly, like, what comes after that?
Views, conversation. What the hell do you think? We do it because it's newsworthy and we want to talk about it with our viewers. Then we make more stuff about other stuff. That's what they call being a consistent creator. We could ask exactly the same questions of her. What do you do after you post your lies and general well-being rubbish? Assume people love you, massage your ego with how amazing you say that you are, get a hit from the likes, feeling validated? Well, we do what we do because it's fun, and your stupid ass wouldn't have made headlines. So we're going to talk about how narcissistic and repugnant your behaviour is. Because, you know, maybe you deserve it. Maybe if you were nicer, we'd talk about you in a nicer way. Maybe you deserve to have the world know who you really are, and how badly you treat people, and how you think you're so damn amazing. Well, that's all we're allowed to talk about, apparently. We can't talk about your fake non-profit for profit and new tyres, how you subject your kids to cannabis smoke, how you value people so little because you value yourself so highly. Well, would that be close to the truth?
When you're speaking on someone else's life, it's actually pretty sad because it's like you're just making a post and then what?
Ah, I see. Yes, we're sad because we're making a post. You know, considering who you are, I wouldn't place any credibility on what you do or don't think is sad. I think it's pretty sad that you try to gaslight your audience when you must know the truth will come out, and that after committing a crime, you still try and flex all those shoes and things that you bought yourself to make yourself feel better. If your man has only got $60, like he says, and you're here flexing a bunch of shoes you bought, isn't that sad that the money is going to make you feel better rather than the kids you pretend to support so much? Or were they a gift from mummy and daddy? Did they wrap you in cotton wool so much that they felt the need to take you shopping to make you feel better? I'd call that both sad and entitled. I think it's sad that the only legitimate person in your charity was so eager to distance themselves from you that they tried to take down my video. Now that is sad.
Your opinions of people have no bearing on their actual lives, and I want everyone to understand that. But anyway, happy Thursday, happy New Year.
Good, I'm glad they don't. But I make videos for the people I cover. I make videos for people who watch the shows and have an opinion. But I'm glad that what I say doesn't have an effect on the people that I talk about. That's the difference between being malicious and just having fun. If I did do what I do because I want to hurt people, then that would just be cruel. But then, how about I just make an exception in your case? You're a nasty, manipulative, narcissistic liar, and I hope this court case is the catalyst for people to learn that DV is not acceptable. That being so selfish and irresponsible doesn't mean you can do what you want, hurt whoever you want, and gaslight your way out of it. Anyway, before I conclude the video, I'm sure you're all wondering the same thing. Will Z and T be dropping any merch soon? Well, don't worry, quality fans, we've got you covered. And here they are in the hub of Merch Central. Can I have one that hasn't been made on the bed, please? Don't know what's been going on there.
When I drop merch, this is it. Once I drop it, it ain't coming back out. I'm not reselling it, not remaking it. So you better get it. Why this one? Y'all see that tag on there?
Oh, can I have one that also doesn't sort of have the label cut off, please? They could have used an actual sharp pair of scissors. Hey, Zeruriah, why don't you go grab a nut? It's something sharp. It'd be nice if that label was on too, but, it's authentic. Yeah, that's what that is. He could have printed it straight too. I mean, that might be nice.
We strive for it to be nothing but the best. You hear me? You know what the people looking for.
Wow, they really know the audience, huh? And you know what everyone's crying out for? Aprons! Yeah, good job. But they strive for quality, apparently. Even though that apron is pretty much see-through. But no, that's quality you're seeing through the material.
They come in other colors besides blue or just blue right now.
Whoa, steady on their excited customer. Right now they've got blue, and a lovely blue. But it's quality, apparently, and the price reflects that.
Aprons is
This
12.
apron $12. This apron $12. Sweatshirt $45. It's good quality.
Take that off and do this one.
$45 for a sweatshirt you've got from Target or wherever that they cut the label out of pretty badly and ironed on their own picture. Really? Real creators design their own graphics. They don't use AI one and, that'll do. They source blank t-shirts from wholesalers, use screen printing or DTG, keep the tags on for transparency and generally comply with the consumer product rules. Whereas Troy and Zeruiah, they buy a t-shirt from a shop, cut out the tag, iron on a JPEG, and call it a merch line. It's very much giving 9th grade Enterprise Day, but with added delusion. The irony of it all, irony, see what I did there, is that they're trying to present themselves as entrepreneurs, influencers, and brand owners. But what they're actually doing is Etsy-level DIY with none of the legal structure, none of the control quality, and none of the transparency. It's not illegal to make your own shirts, but it is questionable to sell them as a brand when they're literally shop shirts with the tags ripped out. I wonder if they'll keep all those white marks on them, but no, they'll be fine.
This is an actual image that is printed. So if you guys look, the quality.
Oops, missed a bit of quality there by the letters.
My degree is in fashion, y'all. I take this very seriously. Like, I've never took in and did any type of merch this serious. So all of the quality is going to be top tier quality, thick material.
Really? You did a fashion degree and this is all you came up with? If you hadn't taken it this seriously before, and we get this heap of turd burgers, then how bad were her attempts before? It's so funny that she talks about all this quality when we can clearly see there's white marks from the iron. It's just like a story about the incident. We can see with our own eyes that there's something wrong with it, but we get told that no, that's a sign of quality. I know what's best, and therefore it is what I say it is. And that brings us to pretty much the end of today's video. And as always, what did we learn, ladies and gentlemen? Well, sometimes stories like this start out feeling ridiculous. A fake name, a bad lie, a merch line made with an iron. But when you peel back the layers, you find something more human underneath. You find fear, pride, shame and confusion, and people trying to protect themselves in all the wrong ways. You find the way masculinity can trap men into silence, and the way violence can trap anyone into a moment that they can't take back. And you find that the law doesn't bend for ego or excuses. It only sees actions, consequences, and the people left standing in the aftermath. And maybe it's the real thread running through all of this. Authenticity. Because if you take something that's cheap and flimsy and try to pass it off as high quality by slapping a logo on it, people can feel the lie before they even see it. And that's true whether you're talking about a t-shirt or a relationship. If the foundation isn't honest, if the material isn't what you claim it is, then the branding doesn't matter. The truth always shows through. So if there's anything to take from this whole tangled situation, is that honesty matters, accountability matters, and dignity matters. No one is less of a man or less of a woman for admitting they were hurt. No one becomes stronger by pretending that they weren't. And in the end, the only thing that ever holds up, in court, in love, in life, is the courage to stand in your own name and not hide behind someone else's. Thank you so much for watching. It's been an absolute pleasure to entertain and have you along for this little adventure of ours. I truly appreciate the support you give my little channel, and I hope we can do it all again soon. So, if you like what I do, then please do like, subscribe, and check out one of these little beauties. So, until we meet again, stay beautiful, love to my 3. and you take care of yourself.
Please subscribe now for our play. Thank you.